Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, the best place to be wherever you are on your wealth journey right now. Today I want to talk about writing your will, but first I will say guys, if you're interested in more videos on personal finance, mindset and wealth creation, do subscribe to my channel just underneath this video for plenty more just like this one. Now, the idea of writing your will, if you've not done one before, can be really scary. And this is why a lot of people put off writing their will, because the idea of it seems very, very final and the topic is quite a difficult one. Now, from my point of view, I would say, yes, it is a little bit scary, but it also gives you a lot of peace of mind at the end of the day. And it means that you can go about living your life without having to worry about it, just like we talked about with the lasting power of attorney. I think a lot of people put off writing their will, when actually in the long run, you'll be a lot happier if you just deal with it now. According to a recent report in the Financial Times, apparently over half of British adults haven't made a will. And this is for a variety of reasons aside from it just being scary. The most common reason why people don't bother writing a will are A, people assume that their estate is going to go to their nearest relatives anyway. B, they think they're too young to leave a will. C, they feel that they haven't got enough to leave to anybody, so why bother? And D, they worry that the process is going to be expensive, complicated and boring. So let's dive into some of these reasons and explore a little bit more of what happens if we don't have a will in place. Firstly, assuming your estate will go to your immediate family if you don't have a will. Now, if you don't have a will, it's called dying intestate. So intestate is the technical term for dying with no will in place. So if you die intestate and you're married or in a civil partnership, but you have no children, then your spouse gets everything. So if your intention was to leave anything to anyone else, like siblings, nieces, nephews, stepchildren, whoever, nobody would get anything. Your spouse would get the whole lot, whether you like it or not. If you're married and you do have children, then what happens is that your spouse gets the first £250,000 of your estate. Plus, they get all of your, what we call chattels, which is your personal belongings, your stuff, if you like. Then what happens to the rest of your estate is that it gets divided in two. And your children get half of that when they turn 18, if they're not 18 yet. And the other half gets given to your spouse to add to the 250,000 plus all your chattels that they already have. So your spouse gets a lot more than your children do in that instance. Again, there's no provision here for anybody else. And sadly, it's stepchildren that tend to get overlooked with regard to this, because unless you have a will in place, they will not inherit anything from you. It gets worse if you're not married. So if you're not married or in a civil partnership, but you do have a partner that you're living with, and let's say that you and your partner have children together. If you die intestate with no will in place, then the children will get everything. Your partner doesn't get a look in at all. They get nothing. Your children get everything. If you're not married or in a civil partnership with your partner and you don't have any children, then I'm afraid your partner still gets absolutely nothing, and what then happens is that your estate then goes to your nearest blood relatives, but in a certain order. So first of all, your estate will go to your parents, or if your parents have passed away, it will go to your siblings. If you have no siblings but you have nephews and nieces, then it will go to them. Then it would go to any surviving grandparents that you might have, and then to any aunts and uncles. So your poor partner wouldn't even get a look in again. And the really sad thing here is that if you die intestate with no blood relatives at all, then your whole estate gets given to the Crown. And nobody gets anything. Something else to consider is your personal items. So it might be that you've promised a special item that you have to a certain friend or a family member. And again, unless you've got a will in place, it's not going to go to that person. It's just going to get divided up just as we talked about before. So you really want to make sure that you've got your will in place so that your hard-earned wealth is divided amongst the people that you really want to benefit from it. Okay, what about the I'm too young? Now, I don't think that anybody is too young to write a will. I was 24 when I first wrote a will, and I've updated it a couple of times since then as well. Generally, as a rough rule of thumb, you want to be creating or updating your will at certain key points in your life. In particular, if or when you get married, if or when you have children, if or when you get divorced. And then you want to be updating your will roughly every 10 years or so, or at least having a look at it every 10 years to see if anything needs amending. Okay, so some of you are thinking, well, I don't need to bother writing a will because I don't have anything to leave to anybody. Everything that I have isn't really worth anything, or I've got lots of debt and I don't actually have anything that I could leave. Well, there are many other reasons to write a will rather than just leaving things to people. For example, what's going to happen at your funeral? Do you want to be buried or cremated? Do you have a preference? I mean, I know I do. I've written about it in my will. So if you have a preference, you want to be writing that down. Otherwise, you're relinquishing that to somebody else. Do you want a religious service or not? If so, what kind of service might you like? Then there's things like if you have young children, you can appoint someone to look after them if you have a will. Whereas if you don't have your will in place, who knows who's going to end up with them? Also things like if you've got pets, so who's going to look after your pets when you die? Again, you can appoint somebody to look after them if you've got a will in place. Otherwise they'll end up in an animal sanctuary, which would be really sad. Another useful thing to do in your will is to appoint an executor. And I don't mean the Pokemon, I mean the person that actually carries out your wishes in the event of your death. So you can see that there are lots of choices that you can make in a will, even if you don't have very much to leave behind. As for the process being expensive, complicated and boring, actually it's not as bad as you might think. Now you might want to appoint your favourite solicitor to draw everything up for you and pay them their fee. Or you could take advantage of things like Free Wills Month coming up in October, or through charities like Will Aid. Free Wills Month is usually twice a year, usually in March and October, and it's open to anybody aged 55 or over who wants to write their will for free. So if that's not you quite yet, then do let all your older friends and family know about Free Wills Month coming up. Will Aid is open to people of any age looking to write a will, and the idea behind this is that rather than paying a solicitor, you make a voluntary donation to the Will Aid charity, and they support lots and lots of worthy causes, so it's definitely well worth a look. And you can find links to the websites of both Free Wills Month and Will Aid in the description just underneath this video. Both Free Wills Month and Will Aid are great because it means that you can get your will drawn up, giving you peace of mind long term, while also helping some really worthy causes, so it's win-win. So I do hope that gives you a bit of inspiration to go and write your will, guys, especially if you're one of the people that's been trying to put it off for absolutely ages. Do give me a thumbs up underneath this video if you enjoyed it, and do as well have a watch of these two videos up next because they will definitely help with your wealth journey. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet already, and in the meantime guys, do stay safe. Thanks ever so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.